Yeah, I want to find more on my Hawaiian side. I just want to go a few, maybe about 6 generations back just to understand what we did,
Yeah.
My cousin said that my ancestors were konohiki.
What is that?
Konohiki were land surveyors. They if I have this right, the oahu pua'a, the district, they were the ones that surveyed the land to make sure that everybody.
You have such a rich heritage. I'm related to Miyamoto Musashi. I'm pure Japanese, and there's nothing really great about him. He was a mean samurai.
Really?
He developed the two.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, he was he's the legend. He's from, so my mother's side.
I thought you were
That's
kidding.
where the feistiness comes from. And playing
kidding.
the drums where you hit things, 2 hands, stick in each hand.
Wow.
Yeah, and then, you look at my family, they're all military, police, law enforcement. It's in the blood. Revival's in your blood. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm not trying to make this about Miyamoto Musashi or me. I'm just saying,
Well, look that person up anyway.
we break the spiritual curse and enter the generational blessing.
Wow.
That's why your fixation for all of this, land, growth, influence, right, all of that's in your blood, Pastor Mike.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Pound for Pound Leader Podcast with Mike Kai. This is actually part 2 of an incredible interview with Pastor Norman Nakanishi. Pastor Mike and Pastor Norman grew up doing ministry together. They were doing ministry here on the island of Hawaii, and just their experiences, their life lessons, leadership principles that they learned along the way. And so if you missed part 1, make sure you go back to listen or watch that. But right now we're gonna jump into part 2 of this incredible interview with Pastor Norman Nakanishi. Let's check it out.
What's your leadership model pipeline? How do you develop leaders in your church?
Small groups,
Okay.
one-to-one mentoring, right? Cohorts,
Okay.
where we use curriculum from our Every Nation world. It's a combination of one-to-one small group cohorts and the small group system, Mike, because when they're in a small group, people get to round out your character. People get to know who you really are, what you're praying, what you're crying over, what your joys are, what your sorrows are. You can't fake the funk in a small group. That's your family. So it's out of the small groups we find out who our next small group leaders are, coaches are, the interns will be, and who the future pastors and church planners will be.
How much classroom time? I love this, by the way. But how much is there classroom time?
Yeah,
30%, 20%?
we used to. It's almost like the classrooms would be more cohort rooms. Like we have something called Leadership 215. It's a 2-year curriculum. And it's a minimal baseline if you're going to be licensed and ordained as a pastor. Well, that's 2 years together, but it's not a classroom. It is a teaching, but it's combined with discussion and sharing and writing papers and everything else. But we found that the old school, because I was a school teacher, the worst way to learn, so being an educator and a learner, the worst way to learn to me is to put people in a classroom of 30 people and just teach them. There has to be exchange, discussion, processing, chewing on the truth together. And then there has to be the one-offs where you go deeper in their life. So, I took a page out of many leaders' books, Ralph being one of them, right? Wayne's great with the classroom approach. Ralph, take them to McDonald's, right? And go through a book together. Yeah. And it's not either or. It's all of it.
Yeah.
So what I've tried to do is take the best approaches of the ones that's worked, in my estimation, and we're still a work in progress. Because the bigger you get, you have to scale things, right? But to me, the smaller training where there's discussion and personal mentoring and coaching is the best way that's worked for us to develop leaders.
So when you plant, are you planting sites first? That's the priority.
Because then you can observe, and then they can make mistakes, and then you still have the right to pull on them.
Have you planted a few churches that probably didn't succeed at times?
Yes.
So have we.
Well, come on, Mike, if they're honest.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy.
No, and you're letting go
of people. To be a church planter
and finances.
Is not easy.
No.
It's not easy, but we need more of them.
True.
But the reason why I like sites, locations, campuses, is because, of course, you can observe, but a church of 300 will never get a building on its own. not in Hawaii. A church of 700 is going to struggle to get a building they can lease. They're going to be stuck in schools for a little bit, or they have to get creative.
Yeah.
And so there's strength in numbers. I think there's financial strength in numbers.
There is.
So the church of 300 to 700 actually is going to get a building because of the strength, overall financial strength of the church as a whole.
The larger market. It's like denominations in the old days used to help churches buy land, right? Which still happens in the larger denominations. The other side of that is, depending on who the leader is, you take like a Pastor Joe Onasai or a Mike Kai, sometimes they'll never grow to their maximum leadership and church size unless you let them go and become a church. Because they need the room to be their own man, to express their own voice and exude their own leadership. Not everyone's going to be that, but I think we have to recognize who that will be. I think personally, if I had a Mike Kai, since you're our other campus, you know, so let's just say if you were a site pastor under us, we would have seen really early on, we're going to have to make this guy a church, because he'll only recognize the growth potential that he can achieve when he's his own man and can call his own shots. Because then your offense is not limited, right? And so maybe those are fewer, but we try to discern those guys at what point, right, do we let them go? And some guys, let's face it, the percentage of those that will plant and grow a mega church is very, very small. That's the reality.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's the reality. This is proven over decades now. So, but in our midst, I think we can spot them really early. You were easy to spot. I remember talking to Ralph Wins. Secret talks about you.
He was talking about me?
Oh no, he saw how special you were, John, and I still meet with John.
Yeah.
You know, different things. I mean, these are the guys, right?
Yeah.
The early talks about all the next generation guys coming up.
I think that's why he put me in youth ministry, and I didn't want to go to youth ministry. I didn't want it. Yeah, I didn't want it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's like, hey, I gotta let so and so go. Come take a walk with me. All right, so take a walk with me. Anytime Ralph would say, "Come take a walk with me," you know, something heavy is about to happen. And he said, "Come take a walk with me." And he said, "I want you to consider being the new youth pastor." I'm like, I don't know. He goes, "No, it'll make you a great senior pastor." I go, "Whoa, I don't even want to do that. I don't even want to do that."
Well, what did you want to do?
You know, I wanted to be a worship pastor.
Get out of here.
No, for real. I wanted to be the next Bob Fitz in Hawaii. You know what I mean? I guitar. I
didn't know that side of you.
I could sing. I mean, my voice is gone from preaching.
Can he sing? Okay.
Way to go, guys. Way to go. I can sing, but right now I got my preaching voice on right now because of last night. But I wanted to be that. I was running the young couples ministry. I didn't want to be a youth pastor, and I was just scared of being a senior pastor. I didn't think I had it. But anyway, he saw it. That's a great thing about Ralph Moore. He could see it in you. Yeah. Before you saw it in yourself?
Yeah, he could. Yeah. But it's easy to see it in guys like you. Some guys, they're sleepers, right? And you got to take a risk on them.
Well, I'll be honest. I felt like there were times that I actually was being crushed on purpose. You know what I mean? The discipline on purpose, like
I think
humbling on purpose.
I went through that.
You went through that too?
Yeah, I think that the guys that are more obvious, they tend to have the classic, for lack of a better term, the AA personality, right? I think that we need it. Yeah. I think so.
Trust me, I don't need counseling.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Whenever I think of him, I say thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, because you know what? I want you to treat me like you're an actual football coach.
Yeah, or a son.
Yeah. Yeah. He treated me both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. And I mean, we all saw it. Everybody's. I say that because I'm speaking as an older guy.
So
we saw it.
I'm an older guy. You're older than me, but there are guys who are younger than me.
Yes.
Are you seeing a generation that cannot handle, or are you seeing a generation that can handle it?
Both.
You see both.
Yes. Like any generation, there's people who can handle it, people that can't handle it.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, there's that proverbial people, they think too lowly of themselves, but they really can become the next Mike Kai, right? And then there's those who think too much of themselves, and they're in denial.
Yeah. What do you see happening in Hawaii right now?
I think there's the raindrops of revival are falling, and it's falling on the younger generation. In my role now, I've been able to circulate and do some speaking in other churches, be in other leadership rooms, have coffee times with pastors that I didn't know knew who I was in other denominations, not just the people we're familiar with. Mm-hmm. And I'm noticing patterns of young people coming to Christ, college students, high school students, middle school students. And this is the prophetic word that I've heard from different prophetic voices from COVID. That there's another, for lack of a better term, Jesus movement, revival coming, another awakening coming. You preached on it, great series, Revival, Awakening. It's started. And I know we go to Asbury, we go to Damar Hamlin, the whole raised from the dead.
The football player?
Yeah, the stadium turns into a prayer meeting.
Was he dead?
Yeah, he'd coded. Wow. So now you see all these things, right? And you see, I hear, I'm connected with people that, have influence in the NFL and those kind of things. They're saying there's a real move of the Spirit. People are coming to the Lord. The University of Hawaii football team right now, we have probably over half the players have come to Christ, and they're playing worship music in the locker rooms. All the rap stuff's exited. Volleyball players are coming to Christ. Baseball players, softball. I've never seen this. And
at the University of Hawaii?
Yes, and it's easy.
Well, I know the football teams, we got 30 of them came to Tuesday night.
See? So
they're driving from Manoa.
And when do you see that?
You don't see it.
Right? We've been around a while.
Yeah.
So if you look at that, but it's happening at the high school level.
It would be a one-off, but this is not a one-off.
Yeah, there's a pattern.
Yeah.
There's a theme.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I think's happening. First phase of revival and a fresh awakening. That has been prophesied, that we've preached on, has begun.
So Sammy Rodriguez, my good friend.
Yeah.
Incredible pastor, leader in America, orator, incredible. I met him 2 years ago. We go out to coffee in Waikiki, and he goes, Mike, I just need to ask you. I go, what? He goes, do you have enough campuses? I said, I think I do. He said, do you have enough, do you have systems and structures? Do you have enough services? I said, I do. He goes, I'm not getting prophetic, I'm getting analytical with you. I'm telling you right now, in a year to 2 years, you will not have enough room. You can't build your buildings fast enough. You are going, it's going to happen. It's just bound to happen. And
yeah, it's bound to happen.
And it's happening.
Yeah.
These are the days can I just tell you about us a little bit? These are the days
Absolutely.
Where the reaper is overtaking the sower in the book of Amos.
And that's been prophesied.
We can't keep up.
The weakness of the Jesus revolution was they didn't have enough containers. And therefore, that's why megachurches came in to bin the huge harvest. Most churches, even though they existed, weren't open to all these young people back then.
Yeah.
And if we've learned anything, be open to anyone and everyone, because God is no respecter of persons, but you got to have enough. You got to have enough groups, you got enough leaders, laborers is the issue, and you got to have enough sites and locations. You do.
So you got saved in the wave of the Jesus people.
The peak of it.
The peak of it.
Yeah.
The peak.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm truly saved, because it's like kicking field goals at altitude, right?
That's cheating.
It's like even anybody can get saved in the peak of revival. Like, are you really saved? No, anyway, I'm just...
So you got saved at the peak of revival,
Yes.
the wave,
Yes.
the peak of the wave, and that wave crashed, and that wave
dispersed,
and dissipated.
Yeah.
And now, here you are, retired, well, semi-retired, you're still working.
Not retired. I'm full-time working. Yeah,
Full-time
I'm as
yeah.
busy as I was without the weight that you carry.
Yeah.
And I'm happy, man. I wake up smiling.
Really?
Yeah, it's the weight, not the work. The work's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, the work's fun.
I think I'll feel the weight differently when that day comes. And I'm like, oh yeah, there was a weight.
Yeah, because
there
the Lord
always is a weight.
shifts it. Because if you move into an apostolic mode.
So you're retired in a season of a new wave coming.
Yeah, I'm retired from being the lead pastor.
Yeah.
But what's really good, but I've been
So you're getting the
rehired.
C2. You're getting the C2 revivals is what I'm getting at.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've been rehired now to see how the rain of revival is beginning to fall in other churches, beyond every nation. I'm beginning to see common patterns happening. There's a sense, because I know what it feels like coming out of the last one. I can, rain has a smell when it starts to fall. I can smell that rain.
Really?
Yeah, in different places. And now I can circulate, right? Because I'm not the lead pastor, and my role is to be in other leadership rooms, have coffees with other pastors. I get invited to speak in other churches. I never could do that before because I was very focused. I was more, no, if I'm going to call the pastor a local church, I need to do a good job of that. I don't have the energy or the bandwidth to do what I saw others doing. I mean, I'm an English major and I have a gift for writing and I haven't written one book. I've had publishers try to get me to write, and now I'm going to write to train, not write to sell. Now I have a why to write, right? So I'm a publisher, but some things are not logical. It's just maybe because of my Asianness, I cannot see multiple lanes at one time like you. I just have to focus this, keep pounding the nail, then it's this, drums, right?
Yeah.
This, right? And so, but being able to see the patterns across, the spectrum is encouraging.
Yeah. Wave is coming.
It started, it's splashing on the shore. Yeah. And you know that. Yeah.
Yeah, I finally admitted it. Because I don't like
that's the difference.
I don't like to overhype.
No, well, that's the difference because I didn't know I was in one.
Yeah.
In the last one. Now I look back and you think going to the Super Bowl is every year and it's going to always happen, right? Football players tell you that.
Right.
And I realized that was a special time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this is our 22nd year, and the last year and a half have been the biggest year and a half we've ever had.
See?
The best year.
That which you preached and prophesied during COVID, right?
Yeah.
You're reaping the benefits of that word.
Are you seeing people coming to the Lord? Of course, the Lord is drawing them. But are you seeing people come because something, the pressure in Hawaii? We got the political climate, the Maui fires, No
doubt that has an effect. Pain has a way of drawing people.
Yeah. And I'm seeing people come to our church, I think because, of course, I know the Holy Spirit is drawing them, no doubt about it.
Sure.
But I sense that people are, there's a level of just angst, frustration, and they need the Lord.
Yeah, and it's accumulated over years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why you see the mental health issues. Cranston Pia, the 39-year-old guy that was shot.
Yeah, the guy on Waianae.
Waianae. He owned a farm out there.
Yeah.
He was in our church.
No way.
Yeah. He was over all of our shuttle drivers a few years ago.
Oh.
I mean, beautiful family, a beautiful daughter, a wife, is just devastating. But they were trespassing.
Hunters were trespassing.
Yeah, constantly.
On his property.
Well, mental anxiety, where a 17-year-old uses a hunting rifle and shoots him in the head.
Oh my God.
Not a gun, not a piece. No, we're talking a full-on. Blows his brains out. So we've had to work our church through that. Billy's done a masterful job.
Wow.
So it's a spiritual war. But I'm just saying that because the angst, that's not normal. And it's a number of shootings out there. That's not the only one. So we plan to work out there, right? Nanakuli. And this is interesting. I mean, I think this is a really good question. Where do you see yourself making the greatest impact right now? You're in your 50s.
Yep.
Right? Early 50s.
Yep.
Approaching mid 50s. Where and how are you making the greatest impact now? And how is it different from the seasons prior?
Wow. My biggest impact that I'm making is number one, my biggest is what I do on Sunday and Saturday, preach. That's my biggest impact.
Would that be also the case in the past?
Yeah, it was, but I'm getting more. I think I'm getting more fruit right now. I think I've been able to distinguish the sound of my voice. Remember in the book of Numbers where they said hammer, take silver and hammer out your own trumpet.
Okay. Yes.
I think I've been able to hammer my trumpet to the sound.
You refined the sound and the message.
Yeah, I've refined it. Refined the sound, the message. I am more, sure of what I'm saying, more bolder than ever before. I'm getting more scriptural insight and revelation more than ever. And I think the biggest contribution I'm making right now is me being in the pulpit. That's what I feel.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I never used to really feel that way. I used to be tied to my notes, super tied to my notes. I'd spend a lot of time on the sermon, so much time. Now I still spend time on the sermon, no doubt about it, but I'm more trusting of what the Holy Spirit's going to say to me and deposit into me.
Right.
So I'll be able to flow easier. And all of a sudden, like, all these scriptures are coming up, and it's not stories. It's got scriptures that are coming up, and being able to relate that. I think that's the biggest contribution I make. Number one, I think that's.
So you're preaching out of a very time-tested, mature wineskin. That's you.
Yeah.
You really have filled out being in your own skin.
I believe so.
And the preaching is coming out, the Word of God. No gimmicks, just preach and impart, connect. Yeah.
Very rare that there's a prop, but sometimes you need a prop to be able to people to see it, kind of visualize it. I use a lot more pictures now on the screen, because when you're setting up context, you know, and people are sitting in the back row up in the top loge, you got to be able to capture their imagination and their attention. And so if they're just looking at one small person on the stage, you got to have those photos. So sometimes those photos don't come up till late in the afternoon or early on Sunday morning when I send it to them.
And you don't have to overdo it like we were when we were younger, right?
Yeah.
You know, back, especially in the 90s, everybody had a skit, everybody had a dance, everybody had a movie clip. Now it's just a visual. Now it's just preach and teach the Word and declare it.
Exactly, yeah. So I would say that's my biggest contribution. My second biggest contribution, I think, is being able to teach on the Hawaiian revival in the islands.
Oh, I would agree to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that classic series. Yeah.
There's so much that's being added to it over time, so much study that I've gone into it. In fact, somebody from my church, a great couple, wanted to meet with me on Sunday and said, we have something we want to give you. So they were waiting outside, and I had another guest here, and they came in, and I was about to go home, and I love this couple. They're big, they're fantastic in our church. And they said, we have a gift for you. So one of those classic, gift bags, take out the paper, and there's an envelope, a huge, kind of a big envelope, and I open up the envelope, and you know what they gave to me? They gave me an original version of Henry Opukahaia's book.
Wow. Original.
The original. 1818.
Wow.
Gave that to me on Sunday.
It's got to be worth a ton.
It's in the safe right now. And I'm going to bring it out later on, and I want the staff to come and see it. But don't touch it.
Wow.
Put on gloves. Don't touch it, because I don't want it to fall apart.
Yeah.
And so I've been a collector of Hawaiian books lately, studying the history of Hawaii before the...
Well, you're part Hawaiian.
Yeah, I'm part Hawaiian. Yeah.
And you're from the Big Island where revival exploded.
And part of my ancestry is from David Lyman.
Yes.
And of course on the Hawaiian side, so they converge. And I've really taken an incredible interest in pre-contact Hawaii and how the Lord had already been setting things up for the missionaries to come. But the thing that I'm finding is I watch YouTube, and some of the YouTube stuff that's being put out is they forget that after Captain Cook, 1778, and before the missionaries came in 1820, there were still foreigners who eventually were coming to Hawaii. They're already coming. So they blame the whole overthrow on the original missionaries. It's not the original missionaries. Not the 12 company of missionaries that came.
They were pure.
They were pure. They came, especially the first company. Hiram Bingham, Asa Thurston, Chamberlain, Elisha Loomis. But it was the offspring. It was the grandsons.
The next generation.
Well, they went back to the East Coast, and humanism entered into what was once a seminary became a cemetery. Princeton, Yale, Harvard, and so they lost their faith. Really, they did, and they came back, and Manifest Destiny entered in, and so that's how it happened. But it's really interesting because about a year ago, I listened to a great professor at the University of Hawaii named Ron Williams. And Ron Williams, who himself is an atheist or maybe a Buddhist, he said he was raised in the Mormon church. He's from Utah. He trained under what a lot of Hawaiians know as Mililani Trask, and one of the big Hawaiian activists. And he trained under her. And But what he did was he took his degree, became a master's, that became a PhD, and he taught the UCC denomination, United Church of Christ denomination, which was one of the biggest denominations in Hawaii, really founded by the missionaries. And anyway, he
That's right.
did a symposium for like 6 weeks in a row, and I watched every single episode on how he absolves the original missionaries
Wow.
and how he breaks it down.
Wow.
And so I've been a student of it. I don't know everything about it. I don't claim to know it. I'm just doing the best I can with my, what do you call it? My own, you know, study and knowledge that I'm trying to create. And it's also given me a more sympathetic, well, a more empathetic, sympathy is not the right word, an empathetic heart to the part of Hawaii that is still upset and angry over how this all happened. Now, for me, I'm glad that I'm an American. I'm glad that I'm part Hawaiian. I'm glad that I'm a Christian. I'm glad that we are the 50th state. I just wonder if we didn't become a territory and a state. I'm just wondering out loud. I wonder who would have tried to come and take Hawaii. Because we wouldn't have been able to defend ourselves. Could we be Japanese? Could we be Russian? Could we be French? So, interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that.
And those options are not good.
No, they're not. Not. And so, you know, so I think one of my biggest contributions, let's cut and paste that. If we're gonna juice it, juice this. Take that part out, maybe that last part. My biggest contribution right now is probably just teaching my church on the history of Hawaiian revival. YWAM, Youth with a Mission. I was able to share it with Lauren Cunningham and his people there, but yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And before he passed,
Yeah,
you know, you had a real platform
I
there.
did. I still do. I got a picture with him over there on that, I call my wall of fame.
Yeah.
My dad, Lauren Cunningham, John Maxwell. There's a few people missing. You take a photo, put it up there too. Serious.
Yeah, no, that's great. And that's probably why you're reaping. That's why God's blessing Inspire, right?
Yeah.
Because you preached on it, you've sowed into it, right?
Well, you gotta think
And
about
you're from the context.
I don't know if I would feel exactly the same if I lived in California and I'm Californian,
No.
you know? But I live in Hawaii, I'm from Hawaii.
Yeah.
Had opportunities to leave, consider when people were leaving, I'm not leaving. God's planted me here. As long as God will have me, I will always be the senior pastor of Inspire Church in Hawaii. But it has been in that season where I wanted to know more about, okay, so God, there was a revival, one of the greatest in the history of the world, according to Elmore Town's top 10 in the history of the world. So if God did it before, why can't he do it again?
Well, I mean, back then, Hawaii had the largest church in the then known world, right?
Hilo,
Yeah, Titus Cohen.
Titus Cone. Yep.
And that's amazing. This little speck in the middle of the Pacific.
You know, it's not only here, and not only there. I mean, in Waimea, Lorenzo Lions. Have you ever heard about him?
But I didn't hear about the work in Waimea.
Oh my gosh, Lorenzo Lions, one of the most powerful, tragic stories, but powerful that can be in the missionary world of Hawaii. He comes in 1835, if I got that date right. He comes in 1835 and he goes to a lonely outpost in Waimea. The Waimea that we know today is beautiful Parker Ranch, great beef,
Yes.
great coffee, great place to live. Probably one of the best places in Hawaii to live. Okay, if saying that, probably one of the best places in the world to live is Waimea. But it wasn't the same Waimea that when he got there. When he got there, the people did not know, they didn't know Jesus.
Yeah.
And his counterpart got there a little bit earlier, but his friend, Titus Cone, went to Hilo. So the word is that Hiram Bingham actually was intimidated by the preaching gift of Titus Cone. So he sent him as far away as he could, and he sends him to Hilo. When he gets to Hilo, he meets David Lyman. David Lyman is the second pastor. Goodrich was number one. David Lyman comes in, he's number two. And David Lyman is training Hawaiian young men to compete in the ever-changing world of Hawaii in English, mathematics. And so he's he's only gone as far as he can. So they are co-pastoring the church for 1 year. Titus learns the language in less than 3 months. He's preaching in Hawaiian within 3 months. He's a circuit preacher. He's walking from Hilo, Hamako Coast, all the way down to Kona and coming back, stopping in every village. He preached 5 times a day, Norman. 5 times a day.
Plus walking.
Plus walking.
Yeah.
And finally, David Lyman says, you be the senior pastor. You lead the church. He leads the church. David Lyman focuses on the school. So the school is a success, the church is a success, and it becomes one of the biggest, fastest growing churches in the known world at that time. But it was happening in Ewa Beach, it was happening on Kauai, it was happening in Molokai, it was happening on Maui, where the oldest church just celebrated its 200-year anniversary before the Lahaina fires and burned down. That church was started by Kaui Keo'oli, Kamehameha, the great second wife. The first convert to Christianity.
Wow.
So now in Waimea, meanwhile back at the ranch, in Waimea, Lorenzo Lions gets there with his beautiful wife, Betsy.
Yeah.
They have their first child. They come back to Kauai Ha'o Church for a conference. They get on the ship. His wife gets sick on day 1. She gets sicker on day 2. She dies on day 3. And I was reading his memoirs of Lorenzo Lions. And this man went back to Waimea brokenhearted with his little son and keeps preaching the gospel, keeps leading people to Jesus, becomes a postmaster general, the head of the school board in Waimea, pastors one of the fastest growing churches in Hawaii and the world too, because he had thousands of people. And you know his district was so big? This man walked from Waimea to Kauai High, up to Kohala, around by Waipio Waimanu Valley, Hamakua, and once a year, he would meet with his best friend, Titus Cone. They'd get on separate canoes with men who would paddle canoe for them, and they would meet at Laupahoehoe Point and have fellowship for a week together. And then they go their separate ways. Lorenzo ended up marrying Titus's sister. And so his second wife was from his good friend, best friend, Titus Cone.
Wow.
Incredible, rich history.
Goodness.
Lorenzo Lions pastored Imiola Church in Waimea. My friend pastors that church now, but it's a small version of what it once was. I mean, small version of what it once was. We're talking about thousands. When Lorenzo Lions dies, Norman, he becomes the most beloved pastor that ever preached in Hawaii. So much so, he writes the most hymns. Hawaii Aloha is from him, right? And what's the other song? I left it all. E Hawaii e kuhome. Oh, I left it all with Jesus long ago. That was a hymn, that was a bar song that came out of England, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
And he translated it into Hawaiian. And so when he dies, I believe it was King Kalakaua that sent the Hawaiian flag to drape his body in before they put him in the coffin and into the ground.
Wow, so rich.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And you have the Lyman blood in you.
Yeah, I want to find more on my Hawaiian side. I just want to go a few, maybe about 6 generations back just to understand what we did, you know?
Yeah.
My cousin said that my ancestors were konohiki.
What is that?
Konohiki were land surveyors. They if I have this right, the Ahupua'a, the district, they were the ones that surveyed the land to make sure that everybody.
You have such a rich heritage. I'm related to Miyamoto Musashi. I'm pure Japanese, and there's nothing really great about him. He was a mean samurai.
Really?
He developed the two.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, he's the legend. He's from, so my mother's side.
I thought you were
That's
kidding.
where the feistiness comes from.
thought you were
And playing the drums where you hit things. 2 hands, stick in each hand.
Wow.
Yeah, and then, you look at my family, they're all military, police, law enforcement. It's in the blood. Revival's in your blood. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm not trying to make this about Miyamoto Musashi or me. I'm just saying
Well, look that person up anyway.
we break the spiritual curse and enter the generational blessing.
Wow.
That's why your fixation for all of this, land, growth, influence, all of that's in your blood, Pastor Mike.
Oh, thank you. I thank God that it is.
It's your DNA.
I'm glad it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you married a Chinese woman, and there's She comes from the heritage of the largest church in Christian history ever.
Wow. The underground church.
Yeah, every missiologist will tell you by far it's the largest, and they've been in revival. They'll say, what are you talking about, wait for revival? We've been in revival here for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so you got it in both sides, the husband and the wife. Passion coming out of you, man.
Oh, it's all muscle memory already.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, and I can tell it's just transferable muscle memory. It's impartation. It spills out.
Well, I'm telling you, there were so many gems. Talk about finding someone in your own backyard, and sometimes we overlook some of those things, don't we? We always look somewhere else, that there's got to be someone else doing it better somewhere else, maybe because they have a different accent. You know what I'm talking about? But I'm so glad to have him. Norman Nakanishi. Go check out his blog at normannakanishi.com. I'm sure you can spell that out, normannakanishi.com, and watch his blog, read his blog, incredible. And don't forget to go to mikekai.tv. I would love for you to check out The Great Life or whatever resources we have there. Until the next podcast, hey, take care. God bless you. Keep contending for revival in Jesus' name. Aloha.